Welcome to Three Season of Pod, episode 24. Fitting that the number is 24. So, yeah, there's a lot to unpack. I don't think we did an episode after Game 7, but we don't even have to go over Game 7. Game 7 was lit.
No, we did. We
Uh,
did. We
did
had
we?
we had the Tatum thing. The meme.
What do you mean? The
Did we?
meme?
I feel like we had the
No,
Tatum
Game
thing.
7
Game
was
7
the
was
game.
Oh,
on
Game
you're
7
right.
was
You're
on
right.
Sunday.
Sunday,
You're right.
bro.
You're right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We were previewing it, and then Tatum went
Yeah.
God mode. But yeah, so we're not even going to talk about that because there's bigger issues at hand. Um, I think I think we'll briefly touch on game one. I mean, same old story as last year, right? Win three quarters by like 13, 14 points. Then Miami goes God mode, and we go like disaster mode and lose the third quarter so badly we lose the game. There's not a lot to unpack from that game, I feel, other than Peyton Pritchard playing, which is fucking weird.
Yes.
And really, it was just the third quarter, if we're being honest. And we could touch
Oh,
on
straight up.
yeah, we could touch on the timeout argument, but like, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really care too much about the timeout.
I don't. Yeah.
They shot really well game one. I think we played well too, and then outside the Pritchard thing, I think the only thing was just Tatum minutes. Like he didn't get in until like the eighth, like 8 minutes in,
Mhm.
and then even then
Uh-huh.
they kind of like iced him out. But he also was very
Yeah.
passive, where he was just he kept signaling to
Mhm.
give the ball to JP and shit for the
Yep.
5 minutes until the last like 2 minutes and a half, and then by the time he did get the ball, he forgot how to play basketball.
Yeah.
And that shit basically costed us the game
Yeah.
because he couldn't figure something out. Which I mean,
Yeah.
I do put blame on him, but I don't put blame on him. But I mean, it trickles into game two, which we will end up talking about anyways.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So like, okay, we'll just move on to game two. Honestly. Okay. So if you watch the game, I hope you watch the game, and not the box score because the box score does not tell you the story here.
Uh-huh.
I've been a Joe Mazzulla defender the entire fucking year. If you listen to the podcast, I've been a defender, man, and I'm not so sure anymore. like because and look, I think we're in a predicament where I'm not saying fire Joe Mazzulla. That's just crazy. And we've already committed to him. You can't just fire a guy after 1 year, and especially we're in the Eastern Conference Finals. We said that was the minimum for this guy, and whatever. And like I said, I've been a Joe defender like all year, and I've acknowledged the flaws. But yo, right now, the situational awareness may not be the greatest. Just when you watch the flow of a game, right? You know who's playing well, you know who isn't.
Uh-huh.
I'm not gonna knock him for not benching JB. That's not an option if we're being honest
Oh, you
on
gotta
this
ride
team in the dynamic. You have to ride your best players.
Easily.
But the Rob and Al conversation is real right now, man. Because
Yes.
was amazing, and I think Mike Malone touched on this. I love the quote, right? Like, not everybody is playable every series,
Yeah.
and I think in this scenario, right, you have to give flowers to Al for the 76ers series and the defense he played on Embiid.
Uh-huh.
It's not the same right now, and
No.
Rob is quite obviously one our best option, and two, Al has been fucking useless in this series, bro. He posts up in the corner, waiting for a three. He doesn't play but he doesn't play defense. If being honest, like if he's kind of out there doing cardio, bro.
No, for sure. Yeah.
And I think the decision to not play Rob over Al down the stretch hurt. And then the second thing I wanted to touch on, and I'll let you guys get your licks in, but there was one play. All right, Miami is famous for their zones. They have like 100 million zones that they can figure out and employ and throw at you. And we figured it out. We figured it out, bro. Tatum, top of the key, Al or Rob, whoever the fuck it is, set a pick. We run the high pick and roll, and then let Tatum make the reads and the correct decisions. And that shit was fucking working, bro. We built a 12, 13-point lead with that exact play. And then for whatever fucking reason, we stopped doing it, man. Just you play 2K, hit down pad and X, pick and roll every fucking play until they stop it. That's what Miami does to us. That's what Cleveland did to us all those years in the East. Like I just don't understand why, if something is clearly working and nothing else is, why don't you stick to that? That was my main complaint with Joe personally for that game.
Yeah.
So
Nathan can go first.
I don't know. I was kind of like back up with what you're saying on Al. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that shit. But like, cause watching the game in real time, bro, like there, it's like Al was non-existent, bro. He was just out there, like just to be out there, bro. Like even like you know how like people like to bash Sean Marcus, like oh you can't not look at the stat sheet, kind of just watch the game to kind of see his impact. Like there was no real impact with Al on the floor last night. Like he would have a mismatch in the post and he wouldn't even like attack. I think he took one shot where he did and he actually made it.
mhm.
And then other than that, like he literally like would pass and he would just pick up his dribble and look to pass it. Like you have to be some sort of like aggressiveness. Like even like at that size with like Gabe Vincent on you, Kyle Lowry, like I can be able to guard you. And but you know what I mean, it's whatever. But I mean, bro, like last night that shit got fucked up. But I mean, dude, the only two things I gotta say is first of all the fucking careless turnovers. Like,
Oh God, I
bro,
was yelling all night.
like Marcus, I love that man, but dude, there was one fucking pass in the corner where he just literally just seemed like he just fucking threw it to Kyle Lowry or whatever, and then they just went on and fucking scored. And the
Yep.
same thing with Tatum. Tatum had there against his zone. He looked, just gave it to him. I'm like, all right, like at this point, like we have no sense of urgency. We didn't. It just
Yep.
didn't look like we like had any poise. It's like we saw the zone. It was like, all right, we're gonna just fucking like.
Yep.
I mean, we were panicking, like in panic mode and shit. And then the other shit is just, bro, the lack of effort on defense, bro. Like we even during the runs, like we usually would be able to sustain it and kind of like have a run of our own and then an answer. But bro, when they did have that run in the fourth quarter and shit, like Jimmy took over, like you could just see that our effort wasn't there and our defense just it was literally straight line drives like the whole time. Jimmy Butler was just straight line drive, take two steps and get a fucking layup. Like
Yep.
at some point you're gonna have to fucking realize like and just pick apart like not even trying to stop it, but like Brad Williams was playing good defense, but just that there was no help defense. It's like he was just like on an island the whole time.
hmm
And that shit was hard to fucking watch.
Yeah, I can't really blame Grant too much. I actually do want to touch on that because I actually
Yeah.
loved that he
No.
was talking shit to Jimmy.
Same.
That shit was
Yeah.
amazing. It was actually like the first sign of life from this fucking team outside of like Tatum.
Mhm.
Um, and I agree. I think I heard you correctly here, but I think look, Grant was playing the best defense he could possibly do without fouling.
Mhm.
But it's Jimmy fucking Butler, bro. Like
Exactly.
he's a tough shot maker. Anybody that
Yep.
thinks Grant was at fault for this game did not watch the fucking game.
Nah.
Agreed. And I mean,
Nah.
Jimmy was gonna make those shots regardless, man.
Exactly. That's
That's
what I'm
some Jimmy
saying,
shit.
bro.
Like he does it all the time. I guess for me, like on the Joe part, this is kind of what I was saying. I don't know how many episodes ago, but where I did think it was a little bit like fast that or I wasn't the biggest fan of
Committing to him.
committing to
Yeah.
him right away.
Mhm.
Because we have never seen him in a playoff series, and I don't like even him getting to the Eastern Conference Finals. None of it has really been too convincing, and it's basically been off the back of like the amount of talent that we've had. And I've also said that as well, where I was like, if there was a year that we win it based off of talent,
It would
and
be
not
this year.
not because we're like the best basketball team, it would be this year.
Mhm.
And that has like remained true the whole entire time. I've watched all these playoff series because we continuously like not like play with our food, but we just put our backs to the wall. And I
Mhm.
don't know if like this Miami team is a team that you obviously can't do that, and which is also what we were talking about last time too previously.
Yep.
Where it was they are very good at executing in the games, which obviously we fail to, at least like I said before too. Our main thing was just the defensive end, man. Like when we were
Mhm.
not executing offensively, we were locked in defensively. And I'd say we've gotten a lot better offensively executing. Like we're not that like we're shitting our pants in the clutch time trying to run out the clock anymore. But
Yep.
we do obviously have errors, and we can't make that up on the defensive end anymore because we don't seem to be locked in like 100%. And
Mhm.
we're already in the Eastern Conference Finals. There is no like they're taking games off, or like they need to lock
Yep.
in, or this is a wake up call. Like this is who the team is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Exactly.
And honestly, I was like thinking about it because I was watching Draymond's pod recently, and I think he
Mhm.
had talked about the Warriors team as well, right? And he was saying how the whole mess up with Jordan Poole and like that incident, he was
It
very
ruined his
like
season.
hands
Yeah.
off. So
Yeah.
he wasn't like on their asses from the beginning to the point where when he felt like he had reins on the team again and was like able to put input the way that he naturally does was like around like February, March or whatever into the season. And he felt like by that time, like the team was what they were. Like he could try to get on their asses as much as they could, but there was no like
Yep.
real recovering from that. And I feel like in similar ways, the Celtics like obviously made that huge shift last year in like mid-season.
Yep.
But that was like we all know that was like not a fluke, but like once in a like
That's a generational
that's
flip.
like yeah, a generational flip, bro. Like we had a generational defense from that point onwards, and it was like
Mm.
historic. And we were like hella locked in, like I was saying, and we made all the way like a run all the way to the finals. So in similar ways, I feel like we never showed that we basically showed who we were throughout the season because we never were able to fully lock in, and it was only just bursts. And it's the same exact thing in the playoffs where we'll see bursts of it or like even games worth of it, but this team has never really been completely like locked in. And
Mhm.
obviously this goes into whole other things, but back to the Joe thing specifically, I just thought it was a little bit premature to commit to him without seeing what he would do in the playoffs.
Right.
Obviously, I mean, I said it I think last episode too, where I think he can be a great coach in the long term, but I don't know if he was the coach that we needed right now.
At the moment, right?
Yeah, at the moment, even in this like 1 to 2 year span, because even next year, I do think that we're gonna get a lot more like a better coaching staff around him and all that kind of stuff to help that out. But he for sure has like costed us these 2 games,
Right.
alongside the core of our players, which obviously I'm sure we're all going to get into a little bit as well. But Joe for sure and his lack of coaching experience has shown, and he's obviously versing the best coach in the league.
Yeah.
So that is like it's just night and day, and that was why
Yeah.
I was like extremely scared of versing the Heat because, like I was saying in the group chat, like bro, he was making Doc Rivers look good for a few games. Like that is not a good sign if Doc Rivers is looking good because
Yeah.
Joe is going to be running laps around us, and in a way, I think Joe a lot of this stuff is like self-inflicted, but he also is versing someone who isn't going to make mess ups in
Yeah.
their lineups and their schemes and all that kind of stuff. So
Right.
it's real rough to see sometimes.
Yeah, and you know, as far as the Spo thing, like let's put this out there too. Ime was getting out coached like
Oh,
a
yeah.
motherfucker last year too. Like this is not like Spo making someone look bad is not a knock on
yeah.
Joe. It's just Spo is that fucking good. But yo, man, we got to get into this, Mr. Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown, yo, listen, man, I love JB. Right, JB's probably for me my second favorite Celtic at the moment on this current in this
I agree.
core. Right, for me personally, he's just my
Second or third
personal
for me,
favorite.
yeah.
Right, so like, listen, man, that man has been escaped criticism all year. Right, and
Bro,
I think
probably all his career.
probably to be
all of
honest,
his fucking career, man.
like yeah. So here's the thing, bro. If you watch the game from the tip, JB was probably the worst player on the floor all night. Um, I think we've kind of discussed this a little bit on this pod, where there are times where he's just straight up tunnel vision, but it's so hard to notice on like the grand scheme of things because for the most part that dude makes tough shots night in and night out.
Yep.
And the box score doesn't necessarily always show it. So he's getting 25, 30, but yo, he was just I don't know what the fuck happened, but he was terrible offensively, tunnel vision. He was terrible. He couldn't make his shots, and he was terrible defensively. There was just no effort all around. And there were a couple things in my notes that I wanted to highlight that I saw, and it doesn't really it explains the whole night, but they weren't the only reasons I thought he had or he was the worst player on the court all night. There was a spot, man, in I think at the end of the third or early in the fourth. I forget which one it was. It was probably end of the third. We had built 10-point lead or something like that. Miami comes down, they get a bucket, whatever, right? Get the ball back, score. JB takes the ball out and just lazily throws the ball in. Gabe Vincent steals the ball, gets a layup.
Uh-huh.
That that was just like the epitome of what are you doing? It's still a close game. Miami has hung around the entire game. We make
Yeah.
our runs, and that's your fucking response. And
Uh-huh.
you know what I mean? Like that's a quick 4 points, 5 points, whatever the fuck it is, right? Lazy offensive rebounds or allowing offensive rebounds on lazy box outs that end up as and ones because you're not putting in the effort. And then when Bam or fucking Max Strus is getting offensive rebounds, where you put your arm over and you give an one, an easy and one, man. That's a layup with minimal contact, and they're gonna call that every time. And that specifically was just like, bro, what are you doing? And I honestly, if you're gonna put this game on anybody, I know we were just kind of like um highlighting Joe's issues. Yo,
Mhm.
JB lost us this game, in my
I
opinion.
mean, for sure he did.
Um,
Tatum was out there without no. They were treating Tatum like he had no other co-star, bro.
yo,
The
dead ass.
Jalen
Uh-huh.
Brown is fucking second team All NBA, and that shit was non-existent. And I understand that players have bad games. Obviously, we literally went through a series where Tatum had like four
Exactly.
stinkers in a fucking row. But the growth that Tatum has shown is that he's able to affect places everywhere else, or like all other facets of the game. Plus, obviously, he's
Mhm.
always giving like effort. He
Yep.
it never looks like when you're mentioning that play at the moment too about JB,
Mhm.
I'm like, bro, it's like he's throwing a fucking tantrum on the court because shit's
Exactly.
not going his way. And I think
Yeah.
like that's just really like sad to see, obviously. And I don't want to like allude to certain things, but I'm like, I just hope that he's not like checked out essentially. um and I do think like he'll come back and like bounce back, but it
Mhm.
also shows that I do think this is probably one of his worst games like in years. At least in
Yeah.
terms of shot making, right? And
Mhm.
that really highlighted his deficiencies in the other assets
Mhm.
of, or facets of his game. Because generally like he doesn't really have like really bad shooting games, or like he'll end up having spurts of shot making which end up like
Mhm.
people will fixate on that and be like, oh, he had a good game or whatever, or like he came back in this quarter or something like that, but it just never seemed to happen at all in this game.
Mhm.
So everything that JB like is struggles with was really really highlighted.
Yep.
And I mean, I'm sure you guys saw that fucking picture where he's like spin move floater over like four of them,
There,
and there's like
there
two
was
people
there was
open in the
video.
corners. I'm like, oh my
There was
gosh,
video of
man.
that as well, and I'm sure Nathan can attest to this. He was there. There were like four different occasions of JB getting the rebound, and I love pushing the pace. But Miami is already set in their zone, and JB again pushes in tunnel vision, and the entire defense collapses on him. What does he do? Does he pass the ball to one of the four open guys? No, he goes up for a layup and he misses, and then Miami gets a transition bucket. It's just, and that was one of the other things I wanted to highlight. It was just like all around, like the basketball IQ last night from him was just non-existent,
Hmm.
and man, and you know what? I love you, JB. You know, and we're kind of forced to pay him that contract, and that's another discussion for another time. But that you have to be able to criticize everybody on this team. And last night, JB deserved every single bit of criticism coming his way.
I mean, I'm gonna touch upon it real quick, but in my opinion, bro, like that's where it gets like real weird or like interesting. I don't even know the right word to describe it at the moment, but I'm like paying 300 mil, and bro, I love JB. I'm never not gonna like,
Yeah.
it's insane to think that there's a world where JT and JB aren't, the duo of our team.
Hmm.
But like I said, paying 300 million and like long term committing to this deal, I think depending how things go end up, and like I was saying in the group chat too, like this will still remain true even if we were to win the championship. I'm always rooting for the Celtics, and I don't really care how they win, as ugly as it could possibly be. But there is genuine like issues that we have seen from the years that this core has been together. And I think that they need to be like addressed and like looked at from like a real standpoint, not in the point of like, oh, these guys have been both all NBA and blah 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 blah. They get their buckets and all that kind of stuff, and they do work well or better together nowadays. But I don't know, man. That is going to be like the highest paid contract
in NBA history.
In NBA history for someone who has very very high like deficiencies in this game and doesn't really like. Doesn't completely complement Tatum's game in a way that like when he has his holes he does not cover those holes completely. He is just a tough shot maker and can really lock in and be that top 20 plus player, but when there's lots of times where he is a deficiency for the team as well, and it's kind of like a redundant skill set too.
And to touch on it a bit though, I think it's a little we're kind of in a gray area there because like you kind of do have to pay him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're really stuck there, right? You either like I don't know. That's like I said, it's more of a nuanced conversation because there's a lot of options you can go there. But for the time being, you kind of have to pay JB.
No, for sure. I mean,
you know what I mean?
And I don't think he's gonna not take the money. I'd be shocked if he doesn't take the money.
If he doesn't take the money, he's gone.
Yeah, which is.
But
I think overall,
I have a hard time believing.
I think overall the core is very that definitely needs to be looked at. Depending how things end up, and like I said, even if we win the chip, I guess it don't really matter to me, and everyone can stay. And I don't think this is the like beginnings of a dynasty, like as like everyone tries to allude to, or like, oh, these guys are still so young, blah blah blah. I just think that it's been the same players that do the same, that have created the same issues throughout all these years. And while everyone has made like progress in different ways, I do think that like it just hasn't been. It's just the same shit, and it ends up being the same shit over and over.
I don't know, man. See, all this I could save for later because I just not in the mood to like really.
Nah, for sure. Like
whatever.
And you know what? And in between all this negativity, I do think I want to highlight that Jason Tatum is that fucking dude.
Absolutely.
And anybody who watched the game, I think the narrative that's been going around a lot in the media, that is the fourth quarter thing where he just he doesn't have any shots put up or whatever, and he is like 0 field goals in the first 2 games in the fourth quarter. You watch the fucking game, that man was seeing double and triple teams all fourth quarter and making the correct reads. Right? He has 0. He was 0 for 3. But he had 3 assists and he still had, I believe, 5 or 6 points or something like that from the free throw line. So like, I don't know if the NBA media realizes this, but when you're going to the free throw line, those don't count as shots. Like so. But anyway, I wanted to highlight how good he was because that man was back hacking.
Yeah.
Like from the tip, just straight up backpacking. And this was another thing in my notes that I wanted to highlight. In the first half, about 2 minutes into the second quarter, we had built a 12-point lead. Jason Tatum checks out. When he checks back in, it's a tie game. That is fucking nuts. I also hated the fact that, and you know what? I don't care, bro. Like it's like he can fucking rest on the plane. I don't like that he subbed out at 8 minutes in the fourth quarter.
For sure.
He came back in, I think, under 6 minutes. I think he came back in with like at the 5-minute mark or some shit like that. Bro, why? Like he's the best player. He's been the best player on the court all night. And luckily, I believe in the fourth quarter there wasn't that crazy of a run. And I think that was largely due to Jimmy Butler sitting in that stretch as well, which I understand the logic behind it. Like, okay, Jimmy's sitting, we should get him some rest, for the stretch run. But you know what? Fuck that logic, bro. You stretch the lead, goddammit. Jimmy Butler is sitting, go stretch the lead. But that was a huge complaint from me. But I did want to highlight how great Tatum was last night. because the current narrative is he was terrible in the fourth quarter. Yada yada yada. No, motherfucker, you've seen double triple teams making the correct reads. He's
Yeah,
the last person you should be talking about.
I agree. I think he did a good job of like not doing exactly what he did game one, where it was like not initiating the game in the fourth at all. Definitely taking the reins and making the correct reads and all that kind of stuff. Which I'm very glad. Like I'm very happy that he's able to do that nowadays. Because you would see glimpses of it, and like sometimes you felt like he had a really good idea of the reads, but then sometimes you feel like he would fumble it. But I think overall it just felt like he had a good read, and obviously there may be some like mistakes here and there, but that's just basketball and like good defense from the Heat and stuff. But yeah, him taking the shots, being aggressive, making good reads and stuff like that was nice. And I think just I don't know why he is sitting out in the fourth, man. At least like at times like that. And like you said, I do get the idea of it because Jimmy is also sitting, and it's like, okay, we're up like 12. Let me have like my other co-star like help us just maintain this or even grow it. But yeah, I think that is one like weird thing with just the Celtics and Joe and stuff like that, where he just feels like he needs to do what his game plan is, even if it's not like going exactly how he wants it to, which kind of goes into like finishing with Al and like not playing Rob or like D White or something like that. It's like in his mind he's like, these are my closers. They're gonna be my closers no matter what type shit. And it's like that's not like that's not what you need in the playoffs for sure, because the playoffs is all about like mid-game adjustments and feeling out your team and what is working best for you at the moment. So I'm hoping that he figures that out and understands that he shouldn't have done that. Cause shit, the players be saying this man's still learning too. So, like, I hope.
Yeah,
so.
that's actually hilarious.
Yeah.
Marcus and who else? They were saying,
I think it was
and
JB.
it was probably
Marcus
JB. Yeah, but they're right though. Like they're right in that, bro. Like it's the truth.
Yeah, bro. I mean, at this point, man, she dude, like, I don't know. Like, yeah, suppose Greg could coach, like, probably one of the best in the league right now. But, like they say, fucking, suppose playing chess, and fucking Joe's playing checkers, bro. Like,
No, it's the
and
truth.
in-game adjustments is crazy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, if you're gonna rest Tatum in the fourth, I think at some point you're gonna have to kind of like figure out, all right, you want JT to play the whole fourth quarter, like, you want him to, get some type of rhythm and be able to close out the game or even build a lead, like y'all said. But I think at some point you're gonna have to switch it up and kind of just roll with what works. Fuck everything else. All season. Like we're playing in the series now. Like you have to do whatever it takes to win. And the only way he's gonna learn is, of course, is going through those type of lapses. But and again, it's like now that you've gone through it for so long already, this far in the playoffs, you have to like try something new. Like, and of course he did in game one, fucking put in Pritchard and shit. But now it's like, you know who you're gonna play every night. But now it's like, okay, how can we switch it up and kind of like adjust everybody's rotation minutes and stuff. You know what I mean? So whatever.
It's not like JT didn't play 40+ minutes, but
Yeah.
it just he needs to figure out that pocket of when he should be sitting, and I don't think that the fourth is the time to be doing that.
It should never be the fourth.
No,
If a player is gonna play most of the halves, it needs to always be like the final minute or so of the third.
Yes.
That's the third.
You
Yeah.
get that extra TV timeout between quarters,
Yeah.
and then you play the whole fourth. Because like I feel like it's also very similar where obviously JT was seeing a lot of double and triple teams, but you almost felt like he wasn't in rhythm either in the fourth. And dude, those stretches in the fourth, once another team is locked in and you're just kind
It's
of
hard
out
to
of
get
it and
back
then just
into
come
them.
in,
Yeah.
it's very hard to get back into the flow of the game.
Easily. So,
And one more stat I wanted to highlight before we kind of close our thoughts on this terrible game. I'm not a big plus minus guy. I'm not an analytics guy at all, if we're being honest. Like not at all, I would say. It's partially.
Yeah.
But JB was a minus 24 in a 6-point game.
Yep.
That's fucking tough. And the non-Tatum minutes, we were, I believe, a minus 14. So that says a lot, I feel, and not. I know the circumstances, but that was pretty cut and dry. Tatum not in the game, terrible. JB in the game, yikes. So closing thoughts on these last two games for me. I think the sentiment between everybody that's a fan, we're upset, and I think we all have a right to be upset with the effort and the questionable things that happened the last couple games.
Uh-huh.
But I don't think the series is over. I don't give a fuck if it's delusional.
No,
There's just
I feel
something.
that.
There's just something about this team, man. This core specifically, where you know what they are like when their backs are against the wall, they become the '96 Bulls for some reason, and they respond. And I think it's just one of those things where obviously last night our backs were not like we as fans were like, oh, our backs are against the wall. We can't go down 2-0 to the Heat. But I don't think the team thinks like that, bro. And you know what? We've been an amazing road team for the last couple of years. I think this is a fucking crazy stat where it's like the Celtics are 500 at home and we have a better record on the road over the last 2 years in the playoffs. And somebody pointed this out, which was very, very comforting to read. Delusionally, obviously, in my case, we won 3 games in a row in Miami, dating to last year. So you know what? Call it delusional. Call me a green team. I don't give a fuck. I still have hope in this team to pull out this series somehow.
Yep.
But you know what? It's annoying. And I wrote this in my notes. Like it's like we're better with our backs against the wall because in a robbery situation, we gave the robber the gun so that we could figure out a way out of the situation.
Yep.
So you know what? I still got the Celtics. I'm not gonna say how many games, probably 7. But
Yeah, I don't even know. I mean, I agree with everything you said, and everything that I said still remains true, which is like both can exist, but I still have very much faith in the Celtics. And it just it sucks that it took these 2 games that could swing momentum a lot. For what I expect Joe to be able to figure out what he should do now. It scares me though because I do think the Heat and potentially like if we were to make the finals, whatever the finals team were to be, are teams that you can't sell these kind of games, and we've seen it from the Heat because the Bucks literally sold like 2 games thinking like, okay, Giannis can come back from his injury, blah blah blah, we'll be all right, and they ended up fumbling 2 of them, and they just never were able to come back. I think we're a more talented team than the Bucks, so I have more faith, and obviously just being a Celtics fan, I just have faith in that way. But it does scare me that this is a team that you can't just fall into these holes like this for, because I don't know, but the talent that we got is doable, man. And JT, I need a masterclass, man. I know he said it at the press conference that we could do it, so I need to see something crazy, man. And I know JB will come back. He's not gonna continue to have shitty shooting slumps. Like that is the one thing that I expect JB not to do. Like he's gonna make his shots and he's gonna at least score, not and then be impactful in that way. So hey, if there's any time for us to come back, it is now, man.
No.
For sure. Celtics in 7, man. I was always like earlier, bro. These 2 games, Miami, yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and bro. But I think we take both.
I honestly think we can take both too.
I can see it. I think this team is, like I said, we're just a really good road team. Also, Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, remember that interview y'all did in January? Talking about not again. We need him in Game 3. Yo, fly your ass to Miami, bro. We heard all this talk about going there to support the team. I ain't seen none of you at the games. So
they need some energy.
We need some fucking energy, bro. Let's get KG in that fucking locker room to hype these dudes up or something. Like something. And then moving on to the Western Conference Finals, I take great solace in knowing that the Lakers are also down 2-0. Go Nuggets.
Now they're going
bro.
Like shit.
Shit. I don't know, bro, but I was gonna say, like, if that script is true, they having the Lakers and Celtics down 0-2, man. So
yeah,
come back.
The script is going crazy right now, bro.
Nah, but we'll see though.
I do think the Nuggets have just looked like a much better team.
100%.
And Jokic has been the best player. easily.
Mhm.
I would like I was saying before, I was scared, or I was that was probably my only thing, the fear that AD could neutralize a lot of what Jokic is doing. AD honestly couldn't do like anything at all
Mhm.
because, but him as a roamer has been able to do a lot more. They did the Rui adjustment and stuff like that. I like the Nuggets and like their fucking energy, bro. Like they are the number one seed in the West, and they are talking hella shit, and they feel like they're extreme underdogs and that no one's talking about them, which is true.
It is true.
Um, and you got like Mike Malone talking out his ass, like not as out of his ass, but like he's talking shit, and I love that energy too. Like he knows what's up. Jamal
Mhm.
Murray, he's fucking probably one of the best like microwaves in the game, bro. Like when once he makes one, he about to make five. He about to make 5 threes. It's crazy. But I for the Lakers end, I really think that LeBron is like showing his age, man, and he's showing that he's really on one foot nowadays.
Mhm.
Um, it was tough to see. I was like, damn. He blowing layups. Obviously, everyone saw the dunk.
I was enjoying it
Yeah,
personally.
the missed dunk.
As a certified LeBron hater, I
Nah,
was
I
enjoying
can't
this.
say I'm a LeBron here, but it's just crazy
I,
to see.
I'm a LeBron hater. Fuck him.
I was enjoying it thoroughly,
I'm
and
a basketball enjoyer.
to kind of build on that a little bit, right? Like just the Lakers and Nuggets thing, and you could just see it, bro. Like this might be the Nuggets year. Just Jokic has just been
Hmm.
on. He's just been on the entire playoffs. And Jamal Murray, I think he's had his up and down games, but I think he's proven at this point that the bubble Murray thing was not a fluke, and he's probably consistently one of the best not really talked about playoff risers in the NBA.
Hmm.
And just the role players they have around him, man. Michael Porter Jr.,
He's
just
been doing a good
great
job there.
shot maker.
Hmm.
Aaron
Yep.
Gordon, great two-way player for them in a role, and not necessarily like and just overall top to bottom. KCP stepped up. Bruce Brown, not Bruce Bowen, has stepped up. Like that team has just been complete, and you just watch the Lakers, and I believe Mike Malone alluded to this. There are just certain players that are not playable in certain series.
Yeah,
They
you
said,
can't have
"Oh,
specialists,
the exact quote, yeah, the exact quote was specialists don't play in the playoffs."
and it's true.
And that's kind of like what's going on with Vando
It's
almost.
fucking
And I'm
bar,
assuming
bro.
he was alluding to him. And you know what? We're watching a master class in the postseason right now from the Denver Nuggets,
Hmm.
and top to bottom, coaching staff, players, executing, all that stuff. And out west, gotta root for the Nuggets.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm enjoying this.
Yeah, and that's
That's
what I'm
the only
saying.
thing
Where
I'm
like
enjoying.
I do think the Nuggets end up winning it, and it's like, obviously I'm looking too far ahead, but if the Celtics were to get there, I'm like, Jokic is like unrelenting, bro, and
Mhm.
for us to never feel like we're gonna be engaged from the beginning of a series, it makes it tough
Listen,
to think that this team can keep getting our backs to the wall and like
mm,
and coming out of it on top out of nowhere. It's like it's just
listen. If the script
frustrating.
is, I would rather play the Lakers if we're being completely honest
No,
here.
100%. I would rather play the Lakers. So I don't know, man. Maybe the Lakers just show up because they've been disengaged the first 2 games or something like that, and
Mm,
and they show us a completely different team. But the Nuggets overall have just looked really good.
they have.
And I don't see them falling to the Lakers. I do think it might go 6 or something like that. But the
Mm,
Nuggets just look very, very good, especially when Jamal Murray's playing like that. Because at this point, Jokic is gonna do Jokic things.
yep.
He's gonna be excellent, like scoring wise and running the offense and all that kind of stuff. No one's really gonna stop him. So it is really on Jamal Murray if he can continue having like 30-point explosions like that.
Hmm.
Along with obviously the other role players like Aaron Gordon figuring out where he wants to be when AD's on him, and Michael Porter Jr. hitting shots. But I do think MPJ continues to hit shots because who the fuck has size on the Lakers that is guarding him? They got like
Yep.
Austin Reeves, and Austin Reeves on him is like a 5-inch difference. It's like it's fucking crazy that they got Michael Porter Jr. as a spot up shooter like that.
Hmm. Yeah,
Mhm.
fair.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. I think I told you, I said last episode, like, hear less about that series. Like, yeah, I'll probably watch it here and there, but like, I mean, yeah, like, I don't know. Our respect for Jokic as a basketball player, bro, has been just through the roof, man. Like, I think I just saw Michael Porter Jr. Like he was on a podcast or something. And he was talking about how like they asked him a question about Jokic, like how was it having like Jokic as a teammate, whatever. And then he told like the story about like when he first was in the league, he was like, hey, obviously he didn't know about Jokic and, as a teammate and stuff. Like he would just be in Serbia drinking beers and shit all summer.
Mm-hmm.
Then he'll come back in shape like the last 2 3 weeks before camp, and then like he just you know what I mean, just be chill. And then like how could someone like that size and big like he was like fat at the time, I guess. And, like how could he be like so dominant and shit? And then like his team is like, dude, when he just wants to play, bro, he could just play. Like he'll just do whatever at his own pace and speed. And I think through the years you could just see that, bro. Like he's gotten obviously more in shape and in his body and stuff, and dude, it just seems effortless for him. And
Hmm.
I think it all starts with him for that team. Like once he turns it on, or he just sets the tone for that team, like they just follow the lead. And I think this series, especially against the Lakers, like, or I think a lot of the basketball world is rooting for the Lakers to win. But
Hmm.
Denver has clearly shown that they're the better team, man. That 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 team, as long as they have Jokic and he's healthy and he got his players around him, that they're gonna be a fucking force to be reckoned with for a minute.
Hmm.
And but yeah, I think that Denver's gonna should win this series. But like I
Yeah.
said, if that script is true, bro, fuck the Lakers.
But
Like I
here,
said,
to build on the Denver thing a little bit and the Jokic thing, I think it's just fundamentals, man. That dude has mastered the
uh-huh.
fundamentals, offensively at least,
And he plays like a
and
big
even
man.
yeah, and he plays like a big man. And Denver is smart and they understand that facilitating the offense through him and not necessarily always scoring is them at their best. And props to Mike Malone for understanding that and utilizing that. And I think the last thing I wanted to touch on regarding that series is I think all playoffs we talked about if AD was dominant, the Lakers usually have a shot to win. And AD has actually been really fucking good and it hasn't
Yeah,
mattered.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Um and with that being said, I honestly think it's Nuggets in five.
Hmm.
I
I can
think
see
they
it.
I think they steal one in LA, probably
Mhm.
game four if we're being
Not
honest.
tonight. Yeah,
Not
yeah,
tonight. I don't think the Lakers
yeah,
lose tonight.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't see the Lakers winning at all in Denver.
nah,
I just don't
no
see it.
way.
It's
So
very it is tough to see.
yeah,
It honestly just depends on Braun, to be honest.
yeah,
Like he has been reserving his excellence for like spurts of games,
yeah.
and obviously like closeout games he has also turned up a notch when he needs to. But it
Mm,
really just depends if he feels like he can, because I think to beat this Nuggets team he has to do it for 4 games rather than doing it for 1 or 2, the way that he
yep.
has been doing for the past 2 series.
Hmm.
Um, so it really just depends on if he is able to like withstand that, to be honest. Because obviously, like we all know, him taking like hella threes is like clear as day. Like he is not completely healthy. So he's just chucking threes and like trying to make
Hmm.
them because he can't drive to the rim all the time anymore.
Yep.
So if he can, which I don't think he'll be able to for a 4 game series or for a 4 game stretch, be able to do that. Um, but I do think he has at least 2, bro. I think he has at least 2 of those, especially if they're up 3-1.
Hmm.
Um,
I think it
it,
also depends on AD showing up at the same time.
no, for
For
sure, for
me,
sure.
you know what I
I
mean?
think AD will be AD. If
Mm,
he's not like offensively there, I think he will at least defensively impact the game. But I do think
mm,
Braun gets at least 2. So
yeah,
I do think it at least goes 6. Five
but it
five is
is
crazy.
it is crazy to see LeBron kind of like having father time catch up in real time, and that's
Oh yeah.
happening a lot in this playoffs. We're seeing it with our own team with Al,
Mm-hmm.
and we
Hmm.
saw it with Chris Paul, like all the time, just catching up at the worst possible time for these teams.
Yep, yep. And I
Yeah.
mean, it
But
makes
yeah,
sense though. They're
he
pretty deep
does.
into the playoffs. I mean, CP
Yeah.
he always has injury stuff, so that is a
Mm,
different thing. But these guys are in the Eastern Conference Finals, man. And
yeah.
Al has played 2 longer series than it should have been, to be honest.
Yeah.
So
But yeah. You know what? Shitty weekend. We'll see what happens tomorrow
yes, yes.
in South Beach. But
Hey, by the next
look
episode,
it.
we'll let y'all know.
We'll let y'all know. But you know what? Fuck it. Celtics in 7 pitch. I don't give a
No,
fuck.
I agree,
I agree.
Celtics in 7.
That's all we got to say on that. All right. Until next time. Signing off.
Peace.
Peace.